The topic of making your drums sound good will never get boring or old. And so I would like to show you a few examples of what I would do to my drums, specifically creating a drum group. And I do recommend to people that are not really used to using drum groups or buses to try it out. It definitely gives you a lot of benefits, especially if you're having trouble of getting your mix sounding right. I definitely recommend you to group them or route them to a bus if you're not using Ableton Live. But let me just get to it. This is my drum bus, which is basically these 4 channels grouped. Let's play these drums without anything on, and I will show you what kind of elements I've used for this example. Let's play these drums again, and I will go through the processes I have prepared here. There's not necessarily anything bad with this drum loop, but I will still try to enhance it. Let's try EQ8. To me, this sounds a bit more defined, focused, cleaned up, a bit more sparkly, with just a few settings, using several bands. Bypass. The good thing about this is you will color the entire drums a tiny bit and bring all drums a bit more together. Okay, that was a very short, simple example of what I would have possibly done with this if I would have produced it as a full track. What's also really recommendable is to use something like a saturator. There's hundreds of them out there, but in this case, I want to show you this cute little plugin called Analoger by Plugin Mix, and I will show you an A/B with on and off. Back it down a bit. Also, please pay attention to the meter here. I tried my best to level match this A/B. What do I hear? It's more open, more forward. It still sounds really organic. It doesn't destroy the sound or sound like a real distortion. I've used it to taste. You can hear it, but it's not over the top. And also in this plugin, there's a dry wet function. And this will, of course, just blend the saturated signal into the dry signal. And I think this sounds really good. Let's go to another example of using saturation, but in this case, I will use the Yuhi Satin Tape Simulator. It's a fantastic plugin. The tone of this plugin is really juicy and tape-ish. Let me play you unprocessed and then processed. Much more juicy than the Analoger. Tightens up, makes it really punchy. You can also hear a bump in the low end, which doesn't sound muddy at all. Off. It's a type of plugin, once you put it on and you bypass it, you're thinking, how could I listen to this without this plugin? Another thing I can suggest, especially if you have a drum bus, which is maybe lacking some specific frequency range, if it's a bit thin and you want to bring out a bit more of a tone in the lower mids or in the mids, have a bit more presence and hear the upper harmonics of bass sounds, once again, I can just suggest overdrive. First bypassed and then unbypassed. You can hear it almost has a tone shaping ability as an EQ. And I'm using it really gently with the dry wet setting. It's just blended in about 12% now. And you can hear it brings more body and lower presence forward. Drums are a bit more punchy, and the lower part of the bongos and congas are more emphasized. Let me switch to the low end. This would be rather useful if you have a thinner kick and you need some lower harmonics. Now I will pretend that it's missing some presence and clarity. Bypass. This sounds really wonderful if you're lacking some presence and some upper harmonics. And yes, I'll say it again, use more overdrive. The dry wet setting is your friend here. It's very sensitive. I mostly don't use it over 15% unless I want to be more extreme. Last but not least is the very simple use of a limiter. And once again, bypassed and then activate it. Pay attention to the level meter. Yes, I'm using it a tiny bit stronger than in some other cases. It is compressing about 5 dB, I guess. And what I usually do is if I see that a bus is a bit jumpy with some sounds that stick out, like the claps or the congas, then I find the sweet spot with the ceiling. And I see when it starts to compress, and I will drive the limiter by adjusting the gain, and I will find a sweet spot for that relation between ceiling and driven input. And if I'm not destroying my transients completely, this can be a really nice way of making your track loud without slamming your mix bus. Use these things in small doses, and at the end, you will definitely have a louder mix overall.